In this lesson, we're going to redo our navigation in order to be an inline block and to display itself horizontally. So to actually make it look more like a menu. So let's go up here to our main styling area, so outside of the media query, because we want this styling, the horizontal values, to actually be added as well when it's on a small screen. Because we've only got 3 items within our navigation menu, so we want to present it within that way. So maybe one of the first things that we want to take a look at is update the padding, because we want to have some padding around the navigation menu, so it's not sitting exactly up at the top corner. So let's give it 20 pixels, and maybe we only want to have that padding at the top, but we want to pull it all the way to the left and to the right. So we can set up padding in that way. And this is going to give us a little bit more spacing there. So see, essentially we've just moved that navigation menu down. And let's actually get into the really nice magic part about CSS is the way that we can easily transform these types of menus. So unordered list. So any nav that contains an unordered list. So we need to get rid of that default unordered list styling. And this is contained within UL, so we need to set our padding to 0. And I'm actually going to shrink this down and open up a live preview, and so that we can actually see what's happening here. This is one of the neat things about brackets, is that we got this ability to do a live preview, and you don't actually need to have any server running. So you can see here that as we're going to be updating and saving, you're going to see it here changing here, or hopefully see it changing here on the right hand side. So we've added in 0 padding there, and this is automatically already moved over these bullet points. So we see that we've got our original border here for that container, and the bullet points are already moved out. So if I was to get rid of that, they move back in. So this is what we're doing when we're updating and removing out that default unordered list. So another one there is to completely get rid of these bullet points, and we're just going to set this to none. And as soon as we do that, then we lose those bullet points. So we got rid of most of that padding, and we can also do margin and set margin to 0 as well. So this is just in case there are some margin issues there, and once we save that, that updates. So let's do a transformation of the nav list items. So now that we're selecting those list items, and we just do display. So there's a number of different ways to display it. By default it's block, but when we do inline, then we see it automatically changes to that horizontal, so they all stack one after the other. And if I do display inline block, so this will give me some of that the block features, but it also gives me and presents that list item inline. And then lastly, let's update our nav. So any ones that have an anchor in there, and we can add in some padding around there so that they stand out a little bit more. So let's try adding in padding of 15, maybe adding a padding of 10. We can see that now they're already taking up the available allocated space. And if we do something like background color so that we can actually see them a little bit better, we can see that all those items get presented. And now let's add in some pseudo styling here. So pseudo, and we're going to do this one on hover. So nav hover, and we'll do a different background color maybe when it's hovered, or maybe just a different color. So maybe when we hover, and we'll change it to chocolate. So now we see whenever we hover. And one of the other things too, I want to get rid of that underline, so that text decoration, change that to none. So that gets rid of those underlines. So one of the main things that users always like is this background color changing. So we can do like a subtle change or something like that. So let's show you what this looks like now. So whenever we hover over it, and maybe this should be white. So do more of a grayscale feel to our design. So now whenever we hover over it, we're being presented with our content in that way whenever I go over to this other sample that I had here. So we're going to see that that's so whenever we hover over it, we see the effect taking place. And then, of course, even on the smaller screens, so let's shrink it down, so we still get that effect of the color changing backgrounds, so whenever they get selected. So with mobile, it is a little bit different because it doesn't take the hover the same way, because you don't want to be able to select things as you're moving over, because that's considered a drag on it. So instead, the hover is when you click, and that's the selection of it. So it's slightly different, but works different ways on the different devices. So again, depending on your device, it might be presented in different ways. So we get rid of this, then now we can hover over it. So in the next lesson, we're going to continue to build out our look and feel of our website, maybe go back to our original design and look at the logo and see how we can present the logo a bit better. And we also need to pull this one over to this right hand side, because within our original design, our nav is over here on the right, and we need to keep that within line with our original layout and plans. So I'm going to add that in quickly. So our nav and our main navigation area. So this is where we can pull this over to the right hand side, and we actually need this only within the media query. So this is another one of those that are specific for the different sizes. So let's do text align, and we'll just align our text to the right hand side. So this is only on the bigger screens. And actually I can copy this into here as well, so that we're not using up a separate property there. So text align, we've got it floated to the right, and the width. Take a quick look at that and see what it looks like. So now it is pulling that text over to the right hand side. And once we get rid of these borders, it's going to look a lot better as well.